Welcome to Reformed Thinking, and thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
It's good to be here.
Today, we're zeroing in on a passage that's, well, it's surprisingly short, but just incredibly dense. We're looking at Matthew's Gospel, chapter 8, verses 14 through 17.
Right. It's the account of Jesus healing Peter's mother-in-law, and then this big scene in the evening where a crowd gathers. Just 4 verses.
Just 4 verses, and it seems on the surface like a pretty straightforward story of compassion. But then Matthew ends it with this absolute bombshell of an interpretation.
He really does. He doesn't just let the events speak for themselves.
No, he concludes this whole little scene by quoting Isaiah 53, verse 4. And this is a text that anyone familiar with the tradition knows is all about substitution, about suffering. Matthew says that Jesus healing a fever fulfilled the prophecy that the servant took our infirmities and bore our diseases.
And that's our whole mission for this deep dive. Why does Matthew force that connection? He immediately tells you how to read this act of compassion. He's saying, don't just see this as sentimentality, see it as a messianic declaration.
Exactly. It's not just a nice story, it's theology in action. So we're going to trace how Matthew presents Jesus as both the king who commands and at the same time the servant who shoulders the load.
And getting this right is so important. It really helps guard against 2 pretty common errors. On one hand, you have a kind of triumphalism that sees Jesus as just a dispenser of comfort, here to fix all our earthly problems right now.
Right.
But on the other, it guards you against a cold fatalism that pictures God as, detached from all the misery in the world. Matthew shows us a Christ whose mercy is always, always moving toward the cross.
Okay, so let's start with the context. Where does this passage sit in Matthew's gospel?
Well, we've just come out of the Sermon on the Mount. 3 massive chapters, 5, 6, and 7.
A huge block of teaching. Jesus lays out the righteousness of the kingdom.
And the final word from the crowd in chapter 7 is that they were astonished because he taught as one who had authority and not as their scribes.
And that line is so important, isn't it? It's like a hinge.
It is the hinge of this whole section of the gospel. For 3 chapters, Jesus has shown his authority and proclamation. He defines righteousness. He presses the law right to the heart.
But the scribes could teach the law. They could quote it.
They could, but their authority was all derivative. It was borrowed. They'd say, Rabbi so-and-so says this. Jesus' authority was, well, it was inherent.
So he makes these monumental claims with his mouth, but the question that's just hanging in the air is, can he back it up? Can he actually do anything in the real world where things are messy and broken?
And Matthew immediately answers that question in chapters 8 and 9. It's a decisive shift from authority and declaration to authority in action.
From the courtroom to the public square.
Exactly. He's demonstrating with his hands what he just claimed with his voice. He's showing that the king who announced the kingdom's standards is also the king who demonstrates the kingdom's power.
So the miracles aren't just a break in the action. They're a continuation of the argument.
A necessary continuation.
Yeah.
If he's going to demand perfect righteousness, he has to show he can rescue people from the consequences of unrighteousness.
And Matthew is so careful about which miracles he includes. It's not just a random scrapbook of wonder.
No, not at all. It's a curated, intentional display of his messianic identity. He's making a point with this sequence.
Right. He's showing the scope of Jesus' authority. He starts with a leper, right? The ultimate outsider.
Mm-hmm. Someone ritually unclean on the absolute margins of society, and Jesus' purity flows out to him.
Then he heals the centurion's servant, an outsider in a different way, a Gentile, and he does it from a distance.
Proving his authority isn't bound by geography or ethnicity or even proximity. His word is enough.
And then we get to our passage. The focus shifts from the public to the private, the intimate space of a home.
And then right after that, in verse 16, it explodes back out into the public sphere with the crowd at the door.
So you see the pattern. Margin, outsider, home, city. Matthew is systematically showing that Jesus' reign is comprehensive. It penetrates every sphere that sin has disordered.
And that's why the fulfillment language is so necessary. Matthew keeps saying, this was to fulfill, because he wants you to see that Jesus isn't just a new teacher. He is the climax of Israel's entire story. And the kingdom isn't some vague feeling. It's a concrete invasion.
Okay, let's zoom in then to verses 14 and 15. We move into Peter's house.
And the lens really narrows, doesn't it? From these big public spectacles to a quiet domestic scene. He saw his mother-in-law lying sick with a fever.
The ordinariness of it is what's so striking. A fever is such a common human affliction.
But Matthew highlights Jesus' intentionality. He entered, he saw. His compassion isn't this abstract, far-off thing. It's attentive. It's personal. He moves toward the weakness.
It's the pattern of the incarnation itself, right there in a single room. God the Son coming near to redeem. He doesn't stay away from the messiness of our lives.
He steps right into it. And Matthew gives us this one specific, crucial detail about how he heals her. He touched her hand, and the fever left her.
The touch, that's the same action we just saw with the leper a few verses earlier.
It is. The Greek word hopsato is the same. And in both cases, the power flows out from Jesus. He doesn't get contaminated by the uncleanness or the sickness. His wholeness, his purity, it just overwhelms it.
So the touch is an act of authority.
It's tender, but it's absolutely an act of authority. And notice the language.
Yeah.
The fever left her. It's almost like it was dismissed, like an intruder being told to get out. He commands the disease, he doesn't bargain with it.
And this small act, a touch in a bedroom, is like a window into his whole mission.
It is. It's a foretaste of the cross. He is meeting the curse head on, in person. He's beginning the work of lifting the burdens that crush us because he came to bear the ultimate burden.
Then we get to what you called the punchline of this little story, her response.
Yes. And she rose and served him.
That's so immediate. She doesn't just feel a little better, she rises. The verb there, authoritative, it's from the same family of words used for resurrection, isn't it?
It is. It's a little signpost pointing to the final hope. This immediate physical rising anticipates the final resurrection of the body. But the real theological weight for Matthew here is on what she does next.
She served him. Diakone.
Service.
Okay.
Diakonia. This is the natural, grateful outflow of a life that has been touched by grace.
And we have to be clear, this isn't her paying him back.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You can't pay for grace. It's the fruit of it. It's the only logical response when you've been set right. It completely flips our modern consumer mindset on its head. We come to Jesus asking, what can you do for me?
And this story turns it around to, now that I've received mercy, how do I live for him?
It's a whole theology of sanctification in one sentence. Christ saves us not just to make us comfortable, but to make us useful for his kingdom.
And there's a real dignity in her service, too. It's just domestic work, probably getting a meal ready. But Matthew presents it as the right and proper response to being healed.
Restored strength is for fulfilling your calling, whatever that is. The point is that the servant's kingdom reverses the fall. It restores bodies, yes, but it also restores households and purpose and vocation.
It's a beautiful picture. The king who receives service is the one who is about to become the ultimate servant himself.
And the one who makes others rise is the one who will humble himself to death before he rises in victory.
Okay, so from that quiet, intimate scene, Matthew immediately pans out. Verse 16.
He does. That evening, the time reference is important. The Sabbath would have just ended at sundown, so now it was legal for people to travel and seek healing.
And you can just picture the scene. The word has gotten out, and this wave of human need just descends on Peter's doorway.
It's the fever of one household becoming the accumulated sorrow of an entire city. And Matthew tells us what they were dealing with. Some were sick, and many were oppressed by demons.
He's very plain about it. He's showing the kingdom of God invading a world that is under real bondage, both physical and spiritual.
And look at the royal simplicity of Jesus' response. For the demonic oppression, he cast out the spirits with a word.
With a word, that's all.
That phrase is everything.
Yeah.
It shows this effortless, sovereign ease. The opposition is real, it's plural, but for Christ, it's no contest. He doesn't need rituals or incantations. He just speaks, and the spiritual realm obeys.
It confirms what the centurion had just said, right?
Yeah.
Only say the word, and my servant will be healed.
Precisely. His word carries its own authority. He rules by speech because he rules by right. It's not just that he's compassionate, he's competent. He doesn't just wish things were better, he commands them to be better.
And then Matthew says he healed all who were sick. Now that phrase, all, has caused a lot of debate. How should we understand that?
That's a critical question. And we have to read it in its context. This is a theological description of that specific evening's ministry. It's not a universal contract for all believers for all time.
So Matthew's goal is to show Christ's sufficiency.
Exactly. His point is that in that crowd, on that evening, no sickness was too hard for Jesus. No disease was beyond his power. He is the comprehensive healer. It's a sign of his messianic identity.
So there's a double emphasis. His compassion is vast enough to receive the many, but his authority is so absolute he can heal them all with a simple command.
Yes. And that breadth is so important for his larger mission. He's not just here to patch up a few isolated wounds. He's come to shoulder the entire burden of a fallen world.
Verse 16 then is this dazzling display of power, but you're saying it also disciplines our expectations.
It has to. Because it forces you to ask, am I just coming to Jesus for relief? for a pain-free life? Or do I see that these healings are signs pointing to something much deeper? A Redeemer who has come to bear my griefs and carry my sorrows in the fullest possible sense.
Which brings us directly to verse 17.
Right to it. Matthew doesn't let you sit and wonder what it all means. He gives you the inspired interpretation. He says, this was to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet Isaiah. He took our infirmities and bore our diseases.
The divine caption. This is how you are required to understand what you've just read.
And his choice of prophet is just. It's everything. He could have picked a lot of places, but he goes straight to Isaiah 53, the absolute core of the suffering servant songs. He is insisting that you must read these acts of physical healing through the lens of vicarious substitutionary suffering.
Let's look at those verbs. He took and bore. Those are strong words. It's not just sympathy.
Not at all. It's the language of burden bearing. It means to lift something up and carry it away, something that belongs to someone else. Matthew is framing Jesus' healing ministry as the beginning, the inauguration of this mission.
So when he removes a fever, it's a down payment on removing the curse.
That's a great way to put it. He's confronting the outward symptom, sickness, demons, because he's come to deal with the root cause, which is sin, and the curse that flows from it. The miracles are enacted parables of redemption.
And the fact that Matthew connects this to Jesus' ministry before the cross is so profound.
It shows the cross was never an afterthought. It was the destination from the very beginning. Everything he did was moving in that direction.
He can bear away our sicknesses because he has come to bear away our sin.
That's the logic. The smaller act proves his identity and commission for the larger one. The physical taking of diseases demonstrates he is the one with the authority for the spiritual bearing of sin on the cross. Isaiah 53 demands we see this as substitution. He suffers in our place.
So Matthew's doing something much more theologically rich than just saying the atonement provides physical healing now.
Much more. He's using the physical healings to establish Jesus' identity as the burden-bearing servant. These miracles are the signposts on the road to Calvary, all of them pointing to the ultimate act of substitution.
And this gives us such a crucial pastoral balance.
It does. On one side, it completely rebukes any idea of a distant, indifferent God. The Son of a God comes into our homes, touches our sickness, he is near.
But on the other side,
On the other, by anchoring it all in Isaiah 53, it rebukes any kind of health and wealth triumphalism. The meaning of the healings isn't, God wants me to be comfortable right now. The meaning is, salvation comes through a suffering, burden-bearing servant.
they are foretastes, previews of the final restoration, but not the full thing itself.
Exactly. They are merciful signs of the already, but they remind us we are still living in the not yet.
Okay, so let's try to synthesize this a bit and maybe put up some practical guardrails for how we read and apply this.
Good idea. Christologically, what we have is this perfect unity. He's the sovereign Lord who commands with a word, and he's the gentle servant who comes near to touch.
Power and mercy held together in one person.
You have to have both. If he were only merciful, he wouldn't have the power to save. If he were only powerful, we would only fear him. But Matthew shows us his power is always clothed in mercy.
And soteriologically, what it means for our salvation.
It means that salvation is the removal of our burdens by a Redeemer who takes those burdens onto himself. The healings deal with the symptoms, but they point to the cross, which deals with the root cause sin.
Which protects us from reducing this passage to just a moral lesson like be nice like Jesus.
Yes, and it also protects us from a therapeutic view of Jesus, where he's just there to meet our felt needs. Remember, the mother-in-law gets up and serves. Salvation restores us to worshipful usefulness, not self-centered comfort.
And that tension you mentioned, the already and not yet, is so key here.
It is. Believers still get sick, we still suffer, we still die. Romans 8 says we groan, waiting for the redemption of our bodies. The heal all in Matthew 8 was a sign of Christ's perfect sufficiency for that moment, not a timeless promise of perfect health now.
Okay, so let's walk through those guardrails. What's the first big misreading we need to avoid?
The first is definitely the prosperity impulse. It's the idea that because Jesus healed then, perfect health is a contractual right for believers now.
And Matthew's link to Isaiah 53 is a corrective.
It is. He anchors a story of physical relief in a text about substitutionary suffering. That forces us to place our ultimate hope not in present comfort, but in the final resurrection that the cross secured.
Guardrail number 2.
The technique mindset. The idea that faith is a force we wield, or that prayer is a formula. If you just say the right words with enough confidence, you get the result.
But Matthew's focus is all on Christ's authority.
Exclusively. He heals with a touch, with a word. It's all about his initiative and his power, not the quality of the person's performance. This protects us from the awful teaching that says if you're still sick, your faith must be defective.
Okay, third guardrail.
This is a big one. Reducing Jesus to a humanitarian hero. He was just a really nice guy, a great moral example of compassion.
And again, the Isaiah 53 quote just demolishes that.
It does. If the point was just be kind, Matthew wouldn't need the fulfillment formula. These are messianic signs, identifying Jesus as the one who fulfills prophecy through substitutionary love. Our mercy must flow from that gospel. It can't be a substitute for it.
And a fourth guardrail on the demonic.
Right. Matthew is sober about this. Demonic forces are real. But his focus is on Christ's effortless sovereignty over them.
With a word.
With a word. There's no panic, no sensationalism, just the calm, absolute authority of the king. So that our response should be confidence in Christ, not a fascination with the demonic.
These are also helpful. The passage itself seems to guide us away from those errors if we read it carefully.
It does. And the final image of the healed woman rising to serve is the ultimate guardrail against a consumer faith. Mercy produces mission. Grace restores us to usefulness.
So wrapping this all together, Matthew 8.1417 gives us this unforgettable picture.
It's the servant king, the one who is powerful enough to command anything that harms us, but tender enough to come near and touch us in our weakness. His kingdom doesn't bypass suffering. It enters right into it and overcomes it through his own substitutionary love.
So what does that mean for you listening right now?
Well, it means you can bring your need to Christ, whatever it is, without trying to bargain. He's tender. He draws near.
And you can trust his authority without panic. He's the king who speaks, and all creation, seen and unseen, obeys.
And the goal, the response, is to rise like that woman and to serve him in gratitude, whether that's in the strength of an immediate deliverance or through the faithfulness of patient endurance.
That's right.
The king who relieves suffering for a season is the same one who has already borne the curse forever. And so your current burden, whatever it may be, physical, spiritual, emotional, it's already addressed by that same authority, that same substitutionary love that guarantees a day is coming when every single burden will be removed forever. Fix your heart on that final wholeness.